We're wasting precious time. Come on to the theater.
Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Boyos Discuss, the podcast where we pick a topic and then shoot the shit about it for a while. This week we're continuing Boyos Summer Musicals with 2001's jukebox musical Moulin Rouge. But before we get into that, I'm Matthew, and I'm joined by my co-hosts Ben, Other Ben, and Harlan, who, I mean, it's been 2 years?
It's
3
been quite
years?
a while.
Yeah.
I'm glad to be a guest again.
It's okay, he learned how to read again, so he can go off the script.
It's difficult for me. I'm sorry.
How's everyone doing?
I'm feeling real good. It's a beautiful summer day.
Yeah, and you've been drinking.
It's a day that ends in Y, right?
Yeah, good.
It's been hot. I've been liking it. I like it warm. So
Yeah, so just some sort of facts before we get into things. This was directed by Baz Luhrmann. He did Australia, The Great Gatsby, Elvis, and this movie is part of what is called the Red Curtain trilogy. It consists of this movie, Strictly Ballroom, which I think was his directorial debut, I'm pretty sure, or at least in terms of film, and then Romeo and Juliet, the Romeo plus Juliet.
There you go.
Okay,
Respect the title.
So, it's not a traditional trilogy in the sense that, like, the stories aren't connected, but they are thematically incorporating a similar motif of, like, the theater. So, like, the first one is, dancing, then Romeo plus Juliet, that's, like, poetry and, like, traditional theater, and then this is singing, so...
I didn't know that Baz Luhrmann did Romeo plus Juliet, but I can see it now.
Oh, yeah.
We watched it in like freshman year of high school because we were reading Romeo and Juliet, and they're like, well, let's do a movie, but what connects with the kids?
well, like, speaking of not knowing it was directed by Baz Luhrmann, The Great Gatsby, I didn't actually know was directed by him for a while because, like, one of the things that I associate with him so much is, like, the color and the bombacity to everything he does. And, like, I felt like Great Gatsby was just very dull.
That is
almost.
not a restrained movie.
Yeah, no, I disagree.
I think the
compared
color
to
palette
other
is
things?
restricted.
Sure.
Yeah, I think the
yeah.
color is really different.
Yeah.
Like, it's a lot of grays and greens and,
Really?
like, dark blues.
I don't know, man.
feel.
I
And
have to
gold.
disagree with that. Like, Gatsby's parties are insane, and when he raised his champagne glass with the fireworks is ridiculous, but it's like Baz Luhrmann style. And, like, the red room that Tom takes, Myrtle, the cars, and, like, I guess compared to Moulin Rouge, anything looks more restrained.
Well, also, like, I know Romeo plus Juliet a lot, too.
Yeah.
Those were the two that I really associated
And that is
with him.
that's a colorful one,
And
yeah.
they're really colorful, and, like, the shots are... There's a lot of cuts, like, tons of cuts. And Great Gatsby felt more traditional in the sense of a movie. Maybe a little bit of fun, but, like, there wasn't, like, cut, wacky, sound effect and things
I
like
get
that.
you. It's kind of like, this is kind of different, but it makes me think of like Guy Ritchie doing Aladdin, where it's like, Guy Ritchie. I mean, I love his movies and his style. Does he do that in Aladdin? Not really. Like, okay, but...
So this movie had a budget of $50 million. That's about $90 million in 2025 money. It made $179.2 million at the box office, which works out to about $324.7 million today.
I mean, that's really respectable. Like, that's a profitable movie, but it's not like The Sound of Music where it printed money.
Well, I don't think this is as accessible as like The Sound of Music. Like, Sound of Music felt like could just be anybody's childhood staple movie. Whereas I guess it's just yours.
Yeah.
For Moulin Rouge.
I don't know. My mom was really into it. It's upon a recent watch. Definitely shouldn't have been watching that like, over and over again. I was like 5, 7.
No wonder you're so horny in high school.
I'm sorry, I couldn't help myself.
One thing I thought was interesting, because I did listen to some like interviews with Ewan McGregor and Nicole Kidman and Baz Luhrmann, sort of talking about like the behind the scenes stuff, and a big portion of the budget, when you think about it, it's like $50 million. That's not a lot. And when you factor in licensing music, for Ewan McGregor and Nicole Kidman, apparently they got paid like very little for this. And they were like okay with that because they were like, oh, we're going to be in a fucking Baz Luhrmann movie. So like, we don't care.
Yeah.
Well,
and
I mean... Go ahead.
Okay. This was like Baz Luhrmann had a background as a Broadway or director, like as like a stage play director.
Well, so he had done the first two parts of the Red Curtain trilogy, and like sort of the budgets, like first one, strictly ballroom, pretty small budget, then a bit more for Romeo plus Juliet, and then a bit more for this.
But
so
I think I did actually read that he had done the play like La Boheme.
yes, yeah, he did do that. There was a I think a Sydney production of it in Australia or something, and so he directed that. But
it seems like a stage director's level of resourcefulness to be like, hey, the budget's going to be small, your payment is going to be small, the sets are going to be like still ridiculous, but they pretty much stayed in the same places. Like once they built kind of the whole overarching set of Paris or whatever, it's like,
and they use a lot of CG too, which I don't know, it's sort of a garish in some ways, and that sort of plays into it where it feels like, like you're looking at a set of a play or something where it's sort of like flat, I guess.
This is a throwback, but like, do you remember how much goddamn Joel Schumacher's Phantom of the Opera was? Was it exorbitant?
Oh, I don't remember.
Because it's kind of similar, where it's like very flamboyant and colorful, but they stay in the same place for a lot of it. I don't know. That's just, I'm curious about that actually. What are the parallels? But
yeah. So as far as, again, we have sort of talked about, like previous ones, whether or not they did well at the Academy Awards. This got a lot of nominations, but it only won 2.
70 million.
Oh, for Phantom, there was a...
Yeah, 70 million.
And you would think that it'd be bigger, because it seems like such a showstopper, but I guess there's ways to tighten the belt on the budget for these kinds of plays.
Yeah, but the Phantom of the Opera was public domain. I don't think these songs were.
No, you're right. Yeah. Okay, true. Sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt.
Oh, no, you're good. Yeah. So, yeah, it was nominated for Best Picture, Best Actress. It only won Best Art Direction and Best Costume Design.
Well deserved.
Yeah, absolutely.
But that year, because again, last time we didn't really know what else came out when Sound of Music did. The winner of Best Picture in 2001 was A Beautiful Mind, which...
I agree.
Fair enough. Yeah.
That's a hard... but...
With the nominations, like... I get the technical ones they won, 100%. But, like, Best Picture, I think that's kind of more that, like, the Academy tends to really lean towards musicals and movies about show business. Mm-hmm. Best Actress, like, Nicole Kidman does a good job. I was not like, this is teaching me new ways to view the human experience.
Yeah. Shit, and like, oh god, like we'll get there, but her acting during like the sexual encounter, I was just like cringing.
So,
I was like, oh,
there's reasons for that, but we'll get there.
It's consistent with the movie, but I don't think that screams Best Actress to be.
One other thing that is a little bit of a controversy, they had tried to get Come What May to be like nominated for Best like original song in a movie. But
remind me, is that when they're on the elephant?
What may
they're singing to each other.
That's it's the one that they write into the They had wanted that to be nominated for Best Original Song, but it had been written for Romeo plus Juliet, and so because of that, they were like, "Well, technically, you didn't write it for this movie," and it's like
that's some bullshit.
Yeah.
It's a good song too. I think it's one of the better songs throughout. But like,
it doesn't matter when you write it; it's when you perform it.
Yeah.
This booty butt.
So the other thing too, again, talking about actors that were sort of in the running for Christian, Leonardo DiCaprio, again, he had that connection with Romeo and Juliet.
Romeo plus Juliet, God damn it.
I know.
Well, that's interesting too, because like he's in Great Gatsby. And so I would think there's a relationship between him and Baz Luhrmann.
Yeah.
And this seems like a weird gap.
Yeah.
But, okay.
Other contenders were Heath Ledger and Jake Gyllenhaal. They were both too young, though, because I think there was like a 10-year gap between Nicole Kidman and each of them.
If you told me Christian was 18, I would believe you. He's not a weathered person.
Yeah.
He doesn't have the wisdom of years. He's just like a dumb kid who immediately gets over his head.
And it almost works better if Nicole Kidman is like...
older.
Yeah.
And that, so I think it could have worked, but again... another one, Ethan Hawke was someone that had, I guess, auditioned for it, and just passed over.
I would understand.
I don't know.
I feel like he wouldn't be.
I'm curious what he sounds like singing.
He's done a musical, I thought. Yeah, I thought so. But
yeah, so we've touched on Harlan's history with this movie.
Yeah.
As far as the rest of us, is this one that y'all had seen, growing up, or
I watched it on a plane. And it was one of those. I was going to Kuwait, so I had like 12 hours just to watch movies. And I was like, I've heard of this before.
Thank you for your service, Ben.
I am a hero. You're welcome for your freedom. but it was on one of those where it's like the screen's in the back of the headrest, and like some of the more racy bits, I was like, man, there's people who know me here, and I have to keep a level of professionalism at work. This is a racy movie for one little Ben Godsmith will be watching. And then I've seen the stage play, which we'll talk about later. Holy Mother of God, the stage play is so good.
So for me, this is one of the movies that we had on DVD growing up, but my parents were like, no, you don't watch that movie. Like, and so I just have like, this sort of vivid memory of like seeing the fucking case with like the, the poster, the cover, sort of thing. And didn't watch it until years later. And even then, I think I had to have been in high school or something. Like maybe even you were like, oh, we should watch it. Yeah. And I just didn't appreciate it at that time. But then fast forward to now, and we'll talk about what when we get into it. But, I think having an appreciation now as an adult watching it was the right move. But with that, I am going to kick things over to...
I didn't get to give my background.
Oh, well, go.
It doesn't exist. I've only heard about it through Harlan and your brother. Yeah.
Well, I love this movie because it's one of two movies that I would always, like, if I was hanging out at home on a date, I would always bring out this movie or The Notebook. Because it always do the same thing. Get them turned on. Get the girls that I was with turned on. Yes.
Arguably, this one shows a healthier example of a relationship.
Nice. You'd be like, that's literally us.
I don't know about that.
You're teaching me what love is. Isn't that hot?
Yeah.
Like, that's us. I'm Ewan McGregor.
I'm Ewan McGregor.
You're not going to the girl like, look, if you were engaged, I would never stop wanting you. And have that pregnant pause.
That's The Notebook a little bit. It's a strange one.
Well, like he didn't go after her. He was just like, I'm in love with this girl, and then he was sad, went and joined the military after her parents made him leave. It's loving.
Gotta stay tuned for the Boyos discuss The Notebook. Coming whenever.
The sequel at some point.
I kind of feel like there's context that I may just be spitballing to why I hadn't seen it at all, but like this is the antithesis of what my parents would like want to see. Like my very Christian conservative parents.
As opposed to the Puritan,
that's right,
wholesome thing that is Phantom of the Opera.
That's right. Well, yeah, I don't understand my fucking parents. Like, I just said the background, but my dad loved ABBA and The Phantom of the Opera by Joel Schumacher. Like, he loved it. We'd watch it a lot.
Was like, your dad into Mamma Mia?
Nope.
Yeah, my family hated Mamma Mia.
Yeah.
They were like...
My dad's a strange one.
That's because your family's racist against the Greeks.
But he'd like my dad would spend a lot of time trying to convince you that, like, actually, ABBA and Phantom of the Opera is straight as shit. Like, he'd probably try to, like, defend it from that angle. But I don't think he'd do that for Moulin Rouge. So, like, this was absolutely not a movie. It's like Rocky Horror, kind of.
What's gay about Moulin Rouge? It's about people having sex all the time. Like, a bunch of...
Yeah, but it's a bunch of artists.
It's about the French.
Yeah, just look at John Leguizamo, dude. That's pretty gay.
That's gay.
No, I could just hear my parents being like, this is feminizing her.
They probably get flashbacks from the scene where the Christian's dad's like, never go to the Moulin Rouge.
Straight
and
up.
they were like, that's me.
No, like when I acted, I had a great time being an actor in like middle school, and then we did some high school. And like I liked doing it. My mom was like, oh, awesome, you're pursuing the thing. My dad, I could just tell is like, this is a neat hobby you have. I hope it's
it passes.
I hope it stays over there.
So with that, I'm going to kick things over to Ether Ben for the synopsis.
The movie opens in 1900 Paris, where Christian is writing. He's a disheveled, starving artist type, and he's struggling with his grief as he begins to type the story of his lost love. And his voiceover sets the tone, telling us that it's going to be a love story he needs to tell. Presents the theme of the movie. The greatest thing you'll ever learn is to love and to be loved in return. Based on the lyrics of the 1948 jazz song
Boom,
Nature Boy.
She's sliding off chair.
It's a good song. Like, have you heard the original Nature Boy by Nat King Cole?
I need to.
Oh, it's such a good song. And like, it's pretty, they play almost the entire song during the movie just in cuts. And I don't know, I really love that song, and I think it's really good and shows a lot for this movie.
Well, but like
Better
sorry.
Better than Unchained Melody and Ghost?
Absolutely not.
No.
But speaking of setting the tone fucking immediately, like even the presentation of the 20th Century Fox logo and then like the curtains and a maestro like bringing in the orchestra
loved that.
and being
Yeah.
like crazy and quirky and bombastic or whatever, and then it's like a black and white flickery retelling like of the film. I think that sets the stage in 2 seconds than I think most movies ever do, and I really liked that. Like, it kind of was just like prepare to have your suspension of disbelief. Like, have that we're doing like a stage play on film. I don't know. I thought that was really creative and really neat. Showed some level of like inspiration.
Well, I always thought that was really interesting too, because like I watched this when I was young, and I thought that more movies would do that. And then as I started watching more and more movies and like branching out, and then coming back to this, noticing that again, it's just like the amount of specific intention and like attention to detail that went into every aspect of this movie, even like the title cards, is just incredible. It's like a beautifully dressed plate, but we can get onto that later.
And I just kind of want to preface, like, I am going to talk some shit, but I want to preface immediately that I have incredible respect for Baz Luhrmann, like, doing exactly what he wanted to do with this movie. Like, I don't want to like crap on him as a director. I just his style doesn't necessarily mesh with me a lot of times, but I respect it and I see him and he's doing what he wants, and that deserves to be like this movie at the end deserves to be seen just for that level. And
it's like Quentin Tarantino, where it's just like, you know, you're watching one of his movies when you start it.
Yeah,
exactly.
But I think one thing that's also really like this movie in a nutshell is like this most beautifully dressed plate. It looks gorgeous to eat, and then when you go and you actually start to eat
it's all fondant.
It's not that bad. I would just say it's like too over seasoned. It's still enjoyable, but it's not the best thing you've ever had. It has like a bit too much to it.
You were obviously more interested in showing off this cool new spice you found than having a fundamental stock.
Exactly. And I think it's really good, and I think it looks really pretty, but there are some major issues with it.
So then we flash back to 1899. Christian arrives in Paris. He's eager to join the Bohemian artist community in Montmartre to express beauty, truth, and love. And I love this intro for him where he's talking about, like, I wanted to write a great piece about what it meant to find true love, but I'd never been in love.
Yeah.
And I don't know. That line just always, like, it hooks me in. And once that went in, I was like, I'm ready to watch this movie. And then while he's in this, like, just flop house, basically, he meets a dwarf, Toulouse-Lautrec.
Was a real person.
Wow, did you take French?
Yeah.
Toulouse-Lautrec.
No,
Did you take French in college?
No, I had a low C in Spanish. And it's played by John Leguizamo.
Leguizamo.
And
There's
a troupe
Spanish coming in.
and a troupe of performers, including a narcoleptic Argentinian who falls through the ramshackle roof, and they're trying to put together a show called Spectacular Spectacular. And then for some context, the Bohemian movement is just counterculture, and its process is an idea of free spirit individualism and artistic expression and finding that big T truth, like, think romanticism, but with less constraints.
But they boil it down even more in the movie than like regular Bohemian lifestyle. They have it as it's what freedom, beauty, truth, and love is like their ideals. And they will say that over and over through the movie too.
And it has, in some strains of it, there's a strong anti-materialism community part of it. Not so much in this, because they're like, man, we got to sell our script. So after he meets these colorful characters, Christian helps them complete the script, and they're like arguing about lyrics, and then he sings the opening lines to The Sound of Music by saying, "The hills are alive to the sound of music."
I don't know about y'all. Like, did we know that this was in the movie after
No,
doing
not
Sound
at
of
all.
Music?
And
Yeah.
it tripped me out.
I did, and I almost suggested to y'all that we should watch this next. And then I was like, wow, this is so like convenient, you know? it's corny, it's happening, and you guys decided this on your own.
We
So I
live
think
in
that's
a
great.
fucking simulation.
But they're like, holy smokes, this guy has the sauce, he has the whiz bang. We're going to be able to just print money now and get out of squalor and completely sell out our beliefs. But then they're like, hooray, now we're going to go to the Moulin Rouge to sell this script to the proprietor there, and I have a drink of the Green Fairy, which is absinthe, and that starts this warped visual style of the film, because a lot of it looks like they're drunk or high. And if you'll let me go on a little tangent here to explain why absinthe is important. It's considered a counterculture drink because it was illegal at the time. It's basically just grain alcohol that you put botanicals in, including wormwood, which gives it the licorice taste and the green color. But it was illegal because 2 reasons. One, cheaper absinthe makers would put copper arsenic compounds in it because it's a bright green color. But arsenic is more or less toxic to life. So people would be poisoned by it.
Going blind.
And also, the French wine lobby, there was a bad blight. So it was a really bad year for wine. And they were losing out to absinthe because it's stronger and cheaper than wine. Started a huge PR campaign where they're there's a famous murder trial where a farmer murdered his wife. And they're he was driven mad by absinthe after he had 12 drinks. Only 3 of them were absinthe, but they're yeah, the wine and the brandy, that's whatever. But the absinthe he had with his coffee.
Wasn't it didn't people think it was psychedelic? Doesn't wormwood have some kind of psychedelic?
You have to take an absurd amount of it, but yeah, it'll make you trip.
Well, and that's kind of what
when they were originally making it, they would make it almost, the malt would be wormwood and grain, but the ratios would be way different. There's a reason why they have the Green Fairy coming, because there was an old saying where when you're drinking absinthe, you're chasing the Green Fairy. And you would see the Green Fairy because there's so much wormwood in it.
I mean, part of this stuff was so ingrained. I think the state of Utah only legalized absinthe in the 90s or the 2000s.
Wow.
There's a lot of cultural this is wacky and scary. So the fact that they're drinking it and there's this counterculture, that's why it's so important.
And it's also specifically with Parisian counterculture as well. The literary circle that existed in Paris in the early 1900s of Fitzgerald and Hemingway. Hemingway writes a lot about absinthe, in fucking For Whom the Bell Tolls, the main character is God, I fucking love absinthe, so hard. It's a whole part of a chapter. But it's interesting though, because knowing that it has that psychedelic effect, I feel can explain how this movie progresses, at least in these next minutes of what the Moulin Rouge looks like and feels like. But I also just want to say that psychedelic effect doesn't just start when they start drinking. Immediately when the Argentinian falls through the roof, right? So it's, like we said, movie starts, Ewan McGregor's typing. It's in the future. He flashes back. This troop falls in and enters his life. And the second they do, we're using Dutch angles, from an awkward, strange.
But that makes uncertainty in the screen.
Correct, it does. And then the cuts are fucking breakneck.
Rapid fire.
Yeah, rapid fire. And they're all such high energy. They're all coked out of their minds. Every single one. When they're doing The Hills Are Alive, it's not fucking recreating what we talked about last week. It is on speed. It's a weird effect that immediately starts. And then you're just haha, okay, can we slow down? Can we stop? And it only grows from here for the next 10 minutes. And it just bugged me out. I felt I was tripping.
So that is something that in the interview I watched with Baz Luhrmann, he was talking about because it was when it first came out and they're oh, how do you think it's going to be received? And he's the first part is really frenetic and really
that's a good word.
Just sort of crazy. And then he's but once the I guess main story sort of kicks off, the love story, then that's when it sort of becomes a more traditional,
sure. And like I said, I respect it. I have not seen another director just fucking whip that out in the first 10 minutes. And I think it's I love what Moulin Rouge and La Boheme and Rent, I love how they portray city life of just fucking crazy and chaotic and frenetic, like you said. And there's sparse but moments of beauty, but you have to find them.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting the carry through of just what city life is between continents, between time, periods in time, that just city life, I feel you can go in all rosy eyed, but then it's just, you can just get swept up in it immediately, probably for the worse.
That's what your parents were afraid of.
Exactly.
Well, I think that's interesting. Well, going back to the crazy breakneck speed, I think that also tries to, this is a bit of a stretch, but kind of portray the state of mind of these characters, because their plan is silly, although it ends up working out for the most part. they're going to try and pitch a play to a brothel. And, like, it doesn't really make sense.
It'd be like if your coked out friend was like, I have a screenplay, I'm going to sell to a community theater. It'd be like, sure you are, bud.
Or a strip club.
Yeah, a strip club. We're going to put on a play at a strip club. We're going down to the Lizard Lounge to sell our play. Like, it doesn't make sense. And I think that, like, this opening part is just to show their uncertainty and their state of mind in some ways. And I think it's really well done in that regard.
So now the boys are in a sufficiently altered state of mind. They head to the Moulin Rouge so they can try and sell it to the owner, Harold Zidler, played by Jim Broadbent, of...
He was in Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince.
Right.
Yeah, he's Slughorn.
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
When they arrive, Zindler and his courtesans, the Diamond Dog Dancers, perform a series of songs. They do Zindler's Rap, which is the Can, and they do Smells Like Teen Spirit, which I could not take Smells Like Teen Spirit seriously because there is some live-action Peter Pan movie starring Hugh Jackman where he's playing Captain Hook, and it's not a musical, but he jumps...
Is that Hook?
No. It came out in like the 2010s. But he like jumps onto a boat and he's singing Teen Spirit, and it doesn't belong with the rest of the movie.
What the fuck?
He jumps on, and he's just doing voice guitar.
That's sick, dude. I'd watch that.
I'd watch that.
It's apparently not a very good movie.
Next movie.
But like, yeah, this is a very frenetic show. Like, this was when I was watching it on an airplane, and the can. It's a bunch of like women just being like, oh, I'm sexy, and they're like flowing up their skirts. So it was like, there's people behind me.
Yeah, there's just a lot of crotch panty shots.
Yeah, watching that as a 7-year-old, dude,
Jesus
it
Christ.
changed my brain chemistry. I
think I can,
dude. I can. Yeah.
But after this impressive dance number and some shenanigans and mixing it up, Christian
Cans.
Waka Waka. Christian is introduced to Satine, played by Nicole Kidman, the star courtesan, who mistakes him for the wealthy Duke of Monmouth, who, sidebar, I went through a little rabbit hole trying to figure this out, is most likely not real nobility. It's just a rich guy that still has the part of his name, since the French nobility was stripped of power after the fall of the Second French Empire in 1870.
Wow, that's such a weird parallel to what we talked about last week.
What?
Like with fucking the Von Trapps losing their title of nobility. He was Riedler or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but this duke still has a shit ton of money.
Hell yeah, he did. All right, fair enough.
And also, Monmouth isn't a real place. Like, I was like, is that like a county in France or something? And I Googled it, and it just came up, Duke of Monmouth, villain Wikipedia. But the Duke is there because Satine has to seduce him to secure financing for the cabaret's restoration. They also sound like they're on the brink of bankruptcy, but it is like packed to the gills with rich-looking people.
Yeah.
They should have just had a bunch of rags jumping around for all those songs instead.
A bunch of the poors in the
Yeah.
Moulin Rouge.
Well, they open with like showing the future, and they see the poor dude, and he's there with his crack pipe or whatever, and he's like shaking, and then they come back in the opening, the before happened, and they show him, and he's like well dressed and everything, and I think it's kind of a perspective of Christian, what he's experiencing when he goes in there is what's going on.
And again, it's like kind of a weird parallel I thought I saw with like the Phantom of the Opera, where it's like, here's this old broken down theater, and here's what it was in its heyday.
Yeah.
But it's like Tim Burton, like this movie is like Tim Burton meets Phantom of the Opera.
No, that exists. It's called Love Never Dies.
Oh God, no! Fucking, and then like put it in the movie, like make the story La Boheme, and directed by Baz Luhrmann. Like, this is such a weird conglomerate of just like ideas, but that's just what it made me think of.
But as Satine dances with Christian, they go to her dress.
We did miss a song, Sparkling Diamonds,
That's
which
a
is
huge
the
song.
Diamonds are a girl's best friend.
Yeah.
So Nicole Kidman broke ribs for this performance.
What?
Not
Like
surprising.
dead ass, like, because there's all the stuff on like her on like a trapeze or like the sort of hanging thing, and there's a lot of like lifts that go on. So one of the stories that she had told was that during one of those like either like filmings or like practices or something, she had broken a rib, didn't realize it, and just kept going for like days. And then eventually she was like, yeah, that doesn't like feel right, you know?
No, hurting to breathe is just part of the experience of being an actor.
That's right. Actress.
Well, in those corsets and everything, yeah.
Yeah, so it was a lot, and it pays off though, because that is like one of the, there's a few numbers in this that are just like, holy shit, like this is just amazing to watch. And again, like it being early in the movie, it's like very frenetic, it's very like, you know, sort of like bold, whereas later on things, you know, with I guess one exception really, you know, sort of like, I don't know, chill out a bit.
There is
you know?
like this consistent thing that keeps happening where the frenetic, crazy, fast paced, breakneck, like cut.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden just a slow-mo, ethereal moment.
Yeah.
That just like it's the breakneck speed just gets like, it's like smashes into a brick wall, and then you're left in this like longer space. And it's so, like, I wouldn't think that would work that well, but sometimes those are my favorite parts of the movie.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, we actually, like, catch your breath right here.
Yeah.
Like, thank you. It's like you're on a roller coaster, and then you get a moment of just, like, going up the next hill. And you're like, all right, cool.
My main takeaway of this song is, like, one of the lyrics, it just, like, stuck with me for some reason. And I know it's a pre-existing song, but I'd only heard it through Moulin Rouge of, like, men grow cold as girls grow old, but we all lose our charms in the end. It's just like bars. Hell yeah. So after Sparkling Diamond, they go to the dressing room, which is located in a giant statue of an elephant, which was a real thing in the courtyard of the Moulin Rouge. And there was also an elephant brothel in Coney Island in the turn of the century.
So, like, Moulin Rouge is a real brothel?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. It's still standing.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not a brothel anymore. Now it's more just like a
tourist trap.
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, my grandmother is talking about how she went there on her honeymoon. My grandfather, and I was like, I get it's culturally significant, but did you guys just go to a really nice strip club on your honeymoon? Okay.
It's tasteful.
I'm not going to ask any follow-up questions about this. But after a apparently improvised comedy of errors, and a little sidebar here, when I was writing the script, I accidentally wrote comedy of eros, and I made myself laugh.
That's so good, Ben.
That is my liberal arts degree paying off, baby. But they're confusing sex with poetry. He's like, well, you know, I have to do it standing up, and it is rather long. She's like, ooh. But they start dancing and singing, and she learns that he's just a poor writer, while the rest of the cast, like the other bohemians, are peeping in to ensure the deal goes through, and they're like using telescopes, and it's like,
yeah, the troupe is like hanging off of it on like a rope, like looking through the window.
I wrote this line down. They said, quote, unbelievable, straight to the elephant. And I was just like, that's a fucking sentence I've never heard before.
And never again.
Yeah. Like,
but Satine and Christian share a tender moment despite this misunderstanding. He's immediately smitten with her because she looks like young Nicole Kidman.
right.
And
well, that's the thing. Like, I just don't. There's nothing connecting these people besides like, you look pretty and say nice things.
look,
But so
if
You're a songbird.
if 25-year-old Ian McGregor sang me a love ballad, I would probably sleep with him. I'm not gay, but god damn it.
This is what my parents were talking about.
It'll turn you gay.
Yeah.
No, I think one of the things that highlight about this section, though, is like the whole sequencing. You were talking about the CGI earlier, and like this is where we get the beginning of the singing moon, which is a big part of this movie, and I think it's really cute. And then they're also dancing above, like, the skyline in the clouds and kind of things.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I think it's really, really beautifully shot. Like,
well, and so this one, and there's again a few other songs in this where they sort of go into this like ethereal, like
trance.
Things are slower, you know. And when it does that, this is one of the most stunning musicals I've ever seen, and it takes your breath away. And there's a song we'll get to later where it was just like, holy fuck! Like
I almost pulled the parachute on this movie, like with just the way the Moulin Rouge felt in those introductory scenes, and then when
if it kept that pace, it wouldn't have worked. Yeah,
and I was worried, and I think I straight up like looked over and I was like, "Is the whole movie like this?"
No.
Yeah, but when we got to the Your Song bit, where he's singing those Elton John lyrics, and they do that dance. And again, like, you can just really see the vision. I think this is the most unrestrained Baz Luhrmann I've seen, at least, of just like, I'm going to do exactly what's in my brain. And I respect it. And like, I've never seen another movie have the style consistently that this one does. You're like dancing in the clouds with the fucking faced moon singing with them. That's, yeah. Like,
The face moon, I don't think this was actually what they were going for, but it was just like, aren't I fartsy, or artsy, smelling on fartsy. I was like, what a reference to Trip to the Moon, a early 1910 silent movie
I don't
that
know
has
if
a face. The moon has a face,
Don't
and a bunch
know.
of French people shoot a massive gun with a bullet full of astronauts onto the moon, and
Yeah.
they get out and have adventures.
they hit it right in the eye. I don't know if that's what they were going for, but I like it.
Don't think so.
Yeah.
But back to the pacing thing, I do think that these slow moments wouldn't be as effective without those breakneck paces as well. Because I think he's trying to tell like a marathon of a story here. Because Christian going to Montmonier and like becoming like a bohemian and then meeting those people could probably be a movie in itself. Like the amount of things that goes on between that like segment.
Sure.
But he's just like, bam, 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 bam. We're getting to the story that I actually want to tell.
Yeah.
Here's just the intro. And I think it works pretty well for what it's trying to accomplish. But I can see it being off-putting to plebeians such as my associate.
No, I mean, like, that just, like, I have experimented with psychedelics myself. I know it's scandalous.
I'm telling
And
God.
I had like a fucking flashback where I was like, this feels like acid. Like, it feels like a frantic ride that is like all lights and glamour and fucking high energy, but you can't make it stop. It's just this like constantly beratement. It's just like, oh my God. But also, like, I guess if we want to go to a deeper level, maybe that's what he's trying to portray as like, this is Nicole Kidman's lifestyle.
Yeah.
And then the only ways that it stops and slows down and has like meaning is when she's, you know, with the artist that is Ewan McGregor, whatever, blah, 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 blah. If we want to try to make depth ourselves. But I think, I don't know, like, again, I respect it. It's respectable. Just the feeling was just too much, man. Like the unease and the cuts and the I was like, oh my God, I'm getting a migraine. Like,
But despite this beautiful moment, it comes down to that Christian is a poor writer under false pretenses, and she was trying to secure investment, so they kind of break apart. But then the Duke interrupts, and Satine improvises because they're like all wrapped up on each other. That Christian is helping rehearse lines for the new show that they're pitching to him as the head writer, together with Zindler and the troupe, because all the other Bohemians just like they're on their little rope and they like and they like fly into the room and pitch a news story about an evil Maharaja attempting to woo an Indian courtesan who is in love with a poor sitar player to secure the Duke's investment and avoid his wrath. And then they do like a pitch song where they're just like, and then this happens, and the Duke's like, and then what? And they're like, and then this happens.
like looking around the room. With,
Yeah.
a sitar player, because there's like a sitar in the corner. Like, it's Indian, because the elephant is Indian themed.
Well, and at first they said was like he's Swiss or whatever, but then it's like the Count I thought allegedly was like Swiss.
Yeah.
And so then they're like, oh no, not Switzerland, you know, like
Indian.
Yeah.
So then the Duke agrees to fund the show, and he's going to also pour money into the Moulin Rouge to turn it into from like a brothel and a very, you know,
Place with
Seedy.
ill repute.
a very fancy strip club into a respectable theater, because all these people, it's going to be a theme later, they're living in like the underworld and they want to be respectable citizens and real artists and actually have a part in greater society, and not just this thing that wealthy, well-to-do men dip down to and throw coins at.
Yeah, Satine's whole goal is to end up becoming like a actress of repute more than just the star prostitute in the brothel.
Yeah.
But part of this condition is that he gets the deed of the property, he can give creative input, and then Satine is his alone. Which this also,
That's a very bold
yeah,
thing
Zidler
to
just
put in
basically
your...
signs her into slavery.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and this also, I felt smart about this. It was like, well, because they're in the underworld, that's why they can't have traditional financing terms, because in a traditional mortgage, you do not give them the deed. You just like, if I default, then you can take the deed, and we got to go through a whole thing for it.
Well, like Zidler's like this. He's a slughorn, so you can imagine like he's a jovial big guy. He's the moon face singing, but he's her pimp. Like at the end of the day, like
But
he is her pimp.
that's part of it, but then also like there's a level of care we see later on, like he wants to help her fulfill her dreams, but he's also a creep too, because then he's peeping on her in the telescope.
That's
So
just
it's like it's weird.
But
Like
that's what pimps do.
Yeah.
They're like, don't forget, I love you. Like, I love you more than anybody you'll ever know, and you need to stay with me because I love you more. Like, and it's this weird.
Yeah.
Pimps aren't good people. Like, they're just not.
I think it's a bit of a stretch sometimes to call him a pimp, because although that is what he's doing,
he is
I
her
don't-
boss, and she's a prostitute.
And he signs her into slavery.
I don't know of any pimp that would willingly get rid of their brothel to make it into a playhouse for one of their prostitutes.
Can I make more money?
I don't think so.
I
really don't think so.
to a nice play and
Versus
making a theater house.
selling ass to all those rich
Yeah,
people.
dude.
Yeah, but
Dude.
those rich people won't respect you if you're a pimp. But if you're a theater owner,
That's right.
you'll get champagne and get to talk to them.
But he doesn't care about the respect. He cares more about Satine's like following her dream.
he
That's part of
does,
the
yeah,
reason
and-
why he's doing this.
Yeah.
It's
Whatever.
mostly for
Pimp
that.
apologist.
Dude, why didn't you just go in there and smack her around and then be like, Duke, here's your
Maybe he
prize,
did,
and then
dude.
kick Christian
He
out
had
and
his
kill
little
him.
telescope peeping in on her sexcapades, dude. That's freaky.
Because he wanted to make sure she was sealing
Oh,
the deal.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I thought you were going to say safe. I was like, yeah, sure. No, it's a fucking pimp.
But later,
That's not noble.
later inside the dressing room, Satine dreams of escaping the Moulin Rouge. As we said, wants to become a real, respectable actress, like Christine from Phantom of the Opera, which you can learn more about in the Boyos discussed from like 3 years ago.
There you go.
But then Christian visits and he wants to have a mulligan at his courtship. And he climbs the elephant and he goes into a mashup of love songs where Christian waxes poetically on love's virtues. And Satine counters that for people like her, love is just a transaction. And if you try and get more out of it, you're just going to hurt each other. Like at first she's like, you can't afford me. You know, this is about money. And he wears her down a little bit. And she's like, well, we'd be a bad couple because like, you'd get mean and I would drink all the time. And he's like, but I'm young and horny and we'd be in love forever. And she's like, golly, you're right.
I really like this song number 2.
Oh no, it's a banger.
It's
It's
so
one-
many songs.
You're coupling, I think, 2 of the stronger songs in the entire show back to back, where it's like One Day I'll Fly Away, which when we were watching it, like, it's so weird. Like, there's a few times throughout this where, like, we'd be riffing while we were watching it, but then there'd be some songs where it's just like,
Quiet.
we go silent, and you're just so transfixed on what's happening. Nicole Kidman with One Day I'll Fly Away, like, that is such a stunning, song. And then going right from that into, it's called the Elephant Love Medley. It's just amazing.
I really love it because it's just like so many different kinds of love songs all smashed together, and they're just taking their individual piece from that song to convince the other one to do something. And I think it's really pretty because like there's like the people want to fill the world with silly love songs.
Yeah.
And she's saying there's too many. And then he comes in and he's like, what's wrong with that? Because here I go again. And it's
Yeah.
really cute. Like, I just really appreciate the attention that they put into the Elephant Love melody. I think it's really good.
And through that force of power ballads, he convinces her that love is true. So now they're in love. They've known each other for 2 days, but they did sing 2
If that,
songs.
Burn bright and
It does
fast,
feel
man.
like puppy love, like your first girlfriend love, you know, which is like
Which is-
super intense.
But also true for Christian.
yeah, no, I know, I
Yeah,
get that.
like-
It's not a criticism. Like they nail that feeling.
Yeah.
But as the Moulin Rouge is being transformed into a theater, Christian and Satine secretly grow closer under the guise of rehearsals. And they're like not really hiding it that well. They're like, I have to study lines at his apartment alone.
The Duke is just
Yeah,
dense.
like
as
literally
fuck.
just like
Yeah.
gross love. Like, you know, I know I'm supposed to be taking something seriously, but it's been 20 minutes and I haven't slobbered on my partner. Like,
Well, yeah, like the Duke will come in and interrupt their meetings, their rehearsal over and over again throughout this segment. And every time he comes in, like her makeup is smeared across
Yeah.
both of their faces. And like, it's very obvious that they're
Christian's covered in her fucking lipstick,
Yeah.
and it's like, yeah.
But as this goes on, the Duke is kind of getting wise, and his jealousy intensifies. Satine is pressured to spend the night with him to secure the funding. However, she falls ill to her worsening consumption or tuberculosis during rehearsals, which is very like Victorian. Tuberculosis is used a lot because it's considered like a very noble and sexy way to die because it makes you like thin and pale and like, oh, I have to faint.
I have fainting spells.
And you have time to put your like affairs in order. So like a lot of media from this time, that is the hot, sexy, gotta get that ass
Interesting.
way to die.
I know there's like Spanish women ate pottery to like pale their complexions to look like you're very right. Having consumption was like a fashion of the time because like the paler you look, the less time you spend in the sun, and the sun's for fucking peasants. I don't know if you guys knew that.
So Ziegler hides the truth from the Duke, and he says like, "Oh, she can't come out because she's gone to confession because she's so nervous
she's
that
confessing.
never felt this way before. She feels like a virgin again." And then we go into "Like a Virgin" by Madonna, which it took me a long time to hear that song. I grew up listening to Weird Al Yankovic. So it's like, no, "Like a Surgeon" is the real one. Like a
right.
Virgin is this weird made up thing you gave me later.
I have to I love this song. I love what the performance does with this song, but I have to say, like we just talked about, the kind of whiplash, like the tonal whiplash that works is going from frenetic to slow. This goes from slow to frenetic, and it doesn't work for me.
Well, and it's going from something where it's like, we've seen, I don't know, little bouts of her tuberculosis like earlier on,
Sure.
but like this is a very serious like.
Oh yeah, the
they
doctor
bring the
comes
doctor
in and he's
and-
like, she's not going to make it, and it's like, well, we can't tell her.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, the drama is there.
It's really easy to show in visual media also because you get into coughing fits and then there's blood on like your handkerchief. And it's like, oh, they have consumption.
Well,
But
Also, this movie takes place in 1899 where a main character dies of tuberculosis. Is this the same cinematic universe as Red Dead Redemption 2?
what is this, a crossover episode?
Where, spoiler alert, a major character in 1899 dies of tuberculosis.
The
Or
Savor,
the only through line is tuberculosis.
Tahiti.
and 1899.
1899.
Hey man, 2 points make a line.
This is true. There's whores.
Yeah, there's whores in Red Dead Redemption. Airtight, same universe. But then Satine tries to end things with Christian to protect the show, but Christian writes a secret love song and the only original song in this movie, because it's a jukebox musical, to declare their love, and that's Come What May. And the idea is that, in the play, because it's obviously a 1-for-1, where the Indian courtesan is courting the penniless sitar player, and she sings this song to know that their love is forever and beautiful and will overcome everything. And they're like, hey, that's like us. You get it? But during the rehearsrsal, some bitch who
Yeah, literally.
She's so
Just some
terrible.
bitch.
Like,
no,
if-
she's great though. Like she has a great musical line.
the thing is, if they had built this up earlier of like she was jealous of Satine or like Satine blew her off or something,
Just completely out of nowhere.
Honestly, though, like that tracks. Yeah,
yeah,
theater's a petty business.
yeah. Like I'm not surprised by that happening at all.
Yeah, and they're not. It's not only theater. It's like prostitutes turn actresses.
That's fair.
So-
yeah,
And this bitch is also like, dude, she's gonna fuck everyone. He has the deed. Like she should stop, banging Christians.
that's a
And
good
if
point,
Satine
too.
falls, that leaves a vacant spot at the top.
For her,
but
pug girl.
Pug girl, some bitch.
she tells the Duke that, as we mentioned, hey, isn't it weird how much this play mirrors real life? And then furious, the Duke demands the ending be changed so that Satine, the courtesan from India, ends up with the evil Maharaja, not the penniless sitar player, because he can provide for her. And the sitar player would just leave her with destitution and love. Suddenly, all of her castmates, all of Satine's castmates, decide that now is the time to tell Christian that people from the underworld can't afford to love, which I love that line. It's just like, look, man, brass tacks, Like, we're living on a knife's edge. I know you're in this fantasy thing, but this is real world right now.
Ain't no rest for the wicked. No, this scene did really fucking hit. We were like, especially when the Duke is like, I want to rewrite the ending, and the cast is like, no, please don't do that. And then he goes, why? And then Ewan McGregor stands up and goes, because she doesn't
love you.
Yeah, she doesn't love you. And he says, I mean, the Maharaja. And that was really good. Like, they just stare at each other, just like, there it is.
Well, and then that also kind of like sparks the next because the Duke is like upset. He's like, I'm banging her tonight. I'm not waiting until opening day. It's happening tonight.
Mm-hmm. So then Satine offers, is like, I'll spend the night with the Duke so that we can keep the original ending, because honestly, imagine going to a play and it ends with the like helpless young maiden ending up with a rich asshole. It'd be silly. It'd be upsetting. And she's like trying to stay over. Is like, oh, well, you know, Christian is infatuated with me and I entertain his boyish charms because he is a genius and we need him. But she can't go through with it because her heart belongs to Christian. They sang 2 songs together.
But she also sees him like walking away from...
Christian is real pouty.
Yeah. Well, like this also has like one of the best songs in the entire musical. It's like a mashup of Roxanne and then his own like personal downfalling, and then he's walking around all moody, and then she's out on the balcony and she's like, no.
He's wearing this like really cool coat too. I don't know if you notice, he has like the collar like duster, and it's like, dude, Ewan McGregor, you look sick, dude. Like,
he's dark Ewan.
He's dark Ewan.
Like,
he's sad boy Ewan. Yeah.
No, this is my favorite song in the whole musical, the El Tango de Roxanne.
Mm-hmm.
It's just fun because like the troupe is like, yeah, man, you know, you fell in love with a prostitute. This is how it goes. You know, you just got to go through it because we can't explain, like, we're going to try to explain to you why this was a bad idea in this song. And it's like, yeah, that checks out, but yeah, sorry you have to do this, but it was inevitable.
And I love this song because I melt to a good fiddle, and they're just like whipping that shit. But also the Duke places a diamond necklace, which apparently was real, and it cost $1 million, or 2% of this film's budget.
Holy shit.
I think at the time they said it was the most expensive piece of jewelry ever made for a movie, like specifically, which, Jesus, like that's
they do
crazy.
with it?
It's at some Planet Hollywood somewhere, if I were to put money on it.
Might be in the Smithsonian or something.
But he puts it around her neck, and that's very similar to the scene from Titanic with like the Jewel of the Ocean, where it's like this rich man and this young, beautiful woman, he's putting a leash around her.
I know I don't know if it's during this song or not, but she's singing and there's a caged songbird next to her. It's like, ha, I see what you did there, Director Lerman.
But when money fails, he resorts to force, and he attempts to assault Satine, and he's saved by, according to the fine folks
Chocolat.
La Chocolat.
La Chocolat.
And the fine folks of the credits. But he just like decks him too, which I was
Never
surprised.
addressed after
Is he
that.
the only like black person in this film?
No, there's other black people, and there's a lot of like Hispanic people, like
John Leguizamo, sure,
John Leguizamo,
but
and the Argentinian.
it's just awkward. It's just, like, name him something else, dude. Don't name him the chocolate. What the fuck is wrong with you?
Look, we can't all have the creative foresight of McCarthy and do Black Jackson.
Yeah, right, Cormac McCarthy. Well, that's the Wild West. I mean, like, that makes it... I don't know. Like, I think off the cuff, I was like, what about, like, Prince? Like, that has a double entendre. Like, he could be a Prince in the fucking play. He could be, like, Prince from the 90s. Like...
Yeah, no, they say it, and they say his name, and I was like, that's weird. Okay.
Like,
and they just were like, oh, they're okay.
Let's skip on.
Yeah.
But after the Duke is cold clocked and apparently just blacks out and forgets the last 5 minutes, Satine is reunited with Christian, and they say they're going to run together, way together, and they're in love, and it's all beautiful. And then the Duke, in a fit of rage, threatens to kill Christian if Satine doesn't comply.
It was a real life performer.
Oh.
Le Chocolat?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was a black performer.
Well,
It's based off of a real thing. So
Well,
now
Braz Luhrmann,
Damn,
you're
dude.
just being overly woke.
Damn, I'm
not
trying to
even
erase Le Chocolat's
Mr.
legacy.
History Professor.
Fuck me.
And then the Duke, he's threatening to kill Christian. He has his manservant who's kind of there in and out, and he's like, if you don't do what I want. And then the goon just pulls out a revolver.
They do set it up early that he's packing heat when they do that. They do that thing where they're doing the switch between the Duke and Christian, and Toulouse is he spills something on the manservant and then opens his coat and sees a fucking pistol there, and he's like, oh shit, sorry,
he's got a gat.
Yeah.
But I love it because there's a bunch of bald people in this film, right? And there is the people who are writing the music and performing the music, and they look like a carton of eggs.
Well, so it starts off with just the one bald guy who was at the beginning, and then we're like, oh, that's sort of funny. And then it's three. Then there's three, and then there's more of them.
Yeah, and there's just more.
It's all these bald people.
And then the manservant's the only other person that's bald in the film, and he has a scar on his eye.
Right underneath his eye.
He's a rotten egg.
Oh.
Dude, I always thought that was funny.
I like that.
I like that one.
Zedler reveals to Satine, though, that her illness is fatal and urges her to protect Christian by breaking his heart. I think he puts it you must reject the boy. You must destroy him. You must break his heart. And then she agrees to stay with the Duke, and she cuts off Christian. She's like, I've never loved you, ba 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 ba. And then Christian just falls into despair. And Toulouse insists that Satine loves him. He's like, you gotta go for the girl, man.
The line, and I have it pulled up here, because when he said it, I was like, that is such a fucking baller line. But he says, you may only see me as a drunken, vice-ridden gnome whose friends are just pimps and girls from brothels, but I know about art and love, if only because I long for it with every fiber of my being. And it's good fucking lord, dude. It's
he's just been this joke the whole movie.
Yeah.
It's just the punchline, walking around on his knees, being like, hee, I'm wacky.
Yeah.
And then to whip that out, it's oh shit.
Right.
So then Christian pawns his typewriter and sneaks into Moulin Rouge to confront Satine before the show, because he's like, I have this money, I need to pay this whore. And being very smarty, this mirrors La Boheme, where there's this famous scene where they burn their art because they have to keep warm. But Christian doesn't sell his arts to keep warm, only the fire of anger within his heart.
I think a lot of this movie goes with La Boheme, Ben.
Yeah.
But
Look,
very nice.
I felt smart. I was watching this by myself and said, aha! But they start having an argument behind the scenes, and that kind of falls into the stage, and Zidler tries to just roll with it, and he's like, aha, the Maharaj, or the penniless Satine player, has shaved his beard, because he's played by the
Argentinian.
Yeah, the Argentinian who has a full-on beard. It's like, and your disguise will not fool me, ha ha ha. So then Christian is not part of this, so he denounces Satine, and he throws the money down. He's like, everyone else had to pay for you, so do I.
I have paid my whore.
It's a real, I've done a lot of things to be petty to women who hurt me, but that's...
Ruining the opening day of her play that she's trying
and
to sell.
selling my arts to do so.
Yeah, there's burning bridges, and then there's fucking
and
burning the pile, just making the world a pile of ashes.
Yeah, that's a crash out. That's
for
what
sure.
that is. Fuck everything. I don't care.
One thing,
shoot me.
And again, it's we've talked about it, fundamentally this being a sort of classical love story. It's it's one that we've heard a lot, where it's it's just mostly misunderstanding, where it's she's trying to save him, but he doesn't know that, and so then he, sort of goes I don't know, ape shit, and but it's, again, it works, it sort of leads into it at the end, but yeah.
So then after he does his big scene, Toulouse-Lautrec, John Lumizano, he does his the greatest thing in the world is love, and inspires Christian and Satine to sing their secret love song that Christian wrote, and they rejoin and they defy the Duke, and love conquers all, and they do a reprise of Come What May.
Except for tuberculosis. Conquers all but tuberculosis.
I'd have to look it up. There was some line they said where it's love is more powerful than, or it's more valuable than any money in the world, but more powerful than nature, or something like that. But then it's it's not.
No, I think it says the opposite.
Oh, it's the opposite. Yeah, but not. Yeah.
It's something love feels really good, but it's actually, it doesn't really stop anything. I gotta look up the line, but it foreshadows this really well. Let me see if I can find it.
But as Christian and Satine sing about their love, the Duke and his manservant try to intervene. And the manservant's trying to get a bead on Christian with his gun, but he can't get a clean shot. But they're stopped by the troop, who just like do vaudeville shenanigans and like throw stuff at him.
Well, and they're doing like the finale dance of Spectacular, and like he like the manservant like pretends to be part of like the show, and he's like dancing around goofy and stuff. Yeah, it's funny.
And the Duke storms off defeated as the crowd erupts in applause. He like sees the gun that fell out of the manservant's hand. He grabs it, and then like he also can't shoot, and he just kind of pouts. He's like, "Drat, I have lost because of the power of true love." And as the curtain closes, Satine succumbs to her illness tragically in Christian's arms. In her final moments, she tells him to write their story so their love will live forever. And then we have coup d'etat, finale. And there's just pretty much it. Like, I don't remember much of this song other than like, "I love you." And he's like, "I love you too." And I think that's real cool.
I kind of have a complaint that I feel like I already know you don't agree with, but like the consumption feels pointless. Like if you're going to have like a threat to the life, you know, in the finale in the form of like a gun, a firearm, and you're going to wave it around and show it off, it never gets fired, right? It's like, oh, okay, we had that threat.
Oh, Chekhov's gun never went off.
So it's like, oh, cool, like that threat has been averted. Nobody's been hurt. Actually, rug pull, it's the consumption. And it's like, it's like, I don't know. I feel like that just seems unearned. Like the gun face off, if she had been shot, I feel like has more impact than her just, oh, wait, by the way, I forgot I had consumption. At the end, I die.
Well, that's because it's like, it's a tragic love with a timetable on it.
Sure. Mm-hmm. And like, I think that'd be kind of a good subversion of like, oh, we think it's going to be the consumption, but then she gets shot or something. Like,
yeah, and that's I see what you're saying, but I think like the sort of agency of like another character being what prevents them from being together, like sort of isn't the point. And again, like if I don't know if you were able to find the quote or not, it's something that's foreshadowed early in it, you know, and so it's like I don't know, I can see it going that way too, and I sort of, you know, I see that,
I don't know, like. Her getting shot, maybe like you and was like, I'm gonna fucking kill the Duke, and then maybe like Zidler being like, look, bud, she was going to die of consumption. I didn't tell her this, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
And it's like, and it was here, it was inevitable.
Yeah.
And like, this is, you know, her end here is just a earlier end than what would have been. I don't know, something. I just feel like this falls a little flatter than it could have been delivered. By like waving a gun around but then not doing anything with it, just having it as the threat of danger, but actually doesn't matter because she's dead anyway. I don't know, that's just me.
I think it's kind of I kind of like it because it is like, oh, we've done everything right, we've conquered everything, our love held strong in the face of this danger and adversity, but at the end of the day, like, it doesn't matter. We were never destined to be together. It has a short timetable, and the time is up. And, you know, if she had left me, if I got shot, if any other outcome, like, changed, it would all lead to the same destination.
It's just,
and I think that's what it's trying to get at.
I guess it just feels too artificial for me. If, like, any kind of thing could have been introduced to steer Satine away from Ewan for his own protection, and, like, it being that the henchman wants to kill him, doesn't make a difference because of the way this turned out. Like, the henchman waves the gun around, but it doesn't go to anything. Nothing happens to the henchman. The Duke goes away. There's no follow-up to, like, was there consequences? Did this impact the story beyond just, like, Satine needs to break up with Ewan? No. Like, I don't know what this changes as opposed to just some other kind of thing happening.
Well, like, the grand outcome would have always been the same for the Moulin Rouge, too. Because, like, let's say she does push away Christian, and Christian leaves. He does his little horse stunt, and then the Duke does kill him. People are upset, they're shocked, but like, he's out of the picture. Satine still dies that night. Mm-hmm. The Moulin Rouge still closes that night.
Because he still has the deed. It does, like, none of it matters.
Had Satine been shot, it would bring about, like, that subplot would then connect to the main plot, and then there could be consequences to, like, the Duke and whatever.
But I think the point of the story is no matter what, the Duke wins. No matter what happens to Satine, no matter how hard they try, it's like when they're talking about the Maharaja, like, it doesn't make sense that the sitar player would win. The Maharaja has the means to, like, control things. Mm-hmm. And he has the means to control things, and he flexes his financial muscles in that moment, regardless of what happens, regardless of if he gets killed even. No matter what happens, the Moulin Rouge is closed, Satine is dead, and Christian is sad.
I guess at the end, I just want to see more connection to like that plot that they were building of like the hitman is waving a gun around and he's going to kill Christian. Like I want to see that reach into the main storyline, and I just didn't feel like it did beyond deliver a finale.
Yeah, that's fair.
You would have rather had Christian pull out dual revolvers and take on waves of goons sent by the Duke.
Fuck yeah.
Well, the thing that always gets me is like, they've been making out so much. Dude, Christian has tuberculosis.
I was going to bring that up. Like, how does tuberculosis even spread? Like,
it's spread through saliva and mucus.
Okay, he's fucking dead.
He's fucking dead. No, like,
there's been way too much mucus being spread.
He's probably got like 10, 20 years.
Like a peanut butter and jelly.
Well, it'll like, tuberculosis is tricky because it'll stay in your body dormant for years.
Damn.
So he may got 10 years left.
Damn.
But, you know, he does have TB.
For sure.
TB
No
promotes TDs. Unlucky.
Unlucky, dude.
So, you know, obviously we've talked a lot about it. What did everyone sort of think overall?
I think
Downer ending, dude.
I love the ending. I really like this movie.
Yeah.
I think it's a damn fine movie. I don't think the level of praise, like we talked about the list of the top 25 American musicals last week. This is number 25. And like it's really, really good. But it's not like I need to grab someone off the street and be like, have you seen Moulin Rouge?
Mm-hmm. It's unique. Like, for sure. It has Baz Luhrmann's fingerprint, like, very much on it. I can't imagine this done another way. I mean, I can. There's La Boheme, there's Rent, there's like all this. But just the Moulin Rouge aesthetic specifically of, like, this is the Parisian setting in this time period, and we're going to do this with it. Nobody could have done what Luhrmann wanted better than bringing that to life. But it's just not as much for me.
I'm not the biggest fan of musicals, and I quite like this. I don't know. They're kind of just something that I put on for other people and enjoy because I like spending time with those people. But like, this movie is something that I would probably actually put on and watch myself. I do enjoy it. I think that it's fun. I think the color is appealing to me, and like, it's like a guilty pleasure, I guess, for me. It's like I was saying, it's this beautifully dressed plate, but it's too salty for some people or too spicy for some people. And dude, I'll just eat it up any day. Like I love it. I love every aspect of this movie, and I can understand why people wouldn't like it, but I have a lot of nostalgia for it. I enjoy a lot of things about it. Had a huge crush on Nicole Kidman. Like, I don't know, I really like this movie.
So again, for me, it's one of the things that the moments that elevate it are those ones, again, when it slows down, you know, and you have that, like, you know, sort of like big orchestra that, you know, like the music swells, you know, and those moments are why I'm like, this might be sacrilege because we had such good things to say about Sound of Music last week, but I think this is my favorite one we've watched in the entirety of Boyos summer musicals, because it just...
You never called Christian a daddy.
Why?
Even like the years before?
Yeah.
Wow.
No, it just... And again, I think maybe, obviously, like, you know, things that currently are going on in my life. You know, there's things where it's like, you know, it's like sometimes a story can resonate with you more than it would at another time, you know, sort of thing. But
you had a loved one die of consumption?
I'm sorry you went through that,
you.
Matthew. Oh. No, I think that's incredibly valid. Like, we have an impact on how much meaning we get out of these as much as the director. So
yeah.
That's I think I would still personally like say Sound of Music is probably the strongest movie we've watched.
Dude, it's so long.
Have you seen it?
Yeah.
I have seen it several times.
Delightful.
Well,
It's, like I said, I'm not that into musicals, and Sound of Music's all right.
My comparison I'll do is like a football game. Way too long for me. I don't like sitting through a whole fucking 3-hour football game. But if you understand, like, if you could track the plays and the thinking of the coach and like how these teams are reacting to each other, and you're looking for these players to do these things, like, then that would make the games fly by. And I know there's a bunch of people that go to sports bars do this every week. That's kind of how I feel about like the Sound of Music and the runtime, where it's like there was so much to feast on as somebody who just like really likes going a little bit deeper with film. I'm not fucking Roger Ebert, but like looking at techniques, looking at color, looking at like the Technicolor of Sound of Music is so fucking beautiful. Like
I do think it's really pretty.
All the color in Moulin Rouge, it's. I still feel
more
like Sound of
saturated.
I feel like Sound of Music is almost like more colorful in the way that I appreciate.
Well, it's like Sound of Music is painted with watercolor, whereas Moulin Rouge is an oil painting with thick coats of paint.
Yeah.
And like it's all about your perspective and what you enjoy. But like Sound of Music is just it's so long and it's so dull. It's dull. It's not fun. It's not entertaining in the same way that something like this would be for me. It's just like it's the slow march to the end of a 3-hour movie, and
damn,
that's how I feel about it. And it's
the first half of that movie, dude.
Yeah,
no way.
I don't like it.
I'll give you the second act a bit. The start of the second act to the end of it, basically the entire second act. All right.
I guess there's just not enough crotch shots for me to call it enjoyable.
Yeah, you never got laid because of Sound of Music.
Yeah.
Never. But
well, that might swing it. Yeah, you're right.
I just have more history, and like I did watch Sound of Music when I was young too, and
dude, I'd be bored
boring.
out of my fucking mind if I watched Sound of Music as a kid. I thought Mary Poppins was boring as shit. I'm sure if I watched that today, I'd be like, what a masterpiece.
Well, that's how like Pride and Prejudice, Nova and Bella, like they'll always
that's
be
a
trying
banger,
to watch.
Mr. Darcy.
Dude, I fucking hate it. I hate it so much.
That's so good.
I hate the idea of rich people trying to get laid and they have nothing better to do but go to balls. I want to gouge my eyes out when I watch stuff like
That is her financial security at risk
Yeah.
because she is a woman in Regency England, so
That's
there's
right.
a lot more at stake for Miss Elizabeth Darcy.
Yeah, she's not
Bennett.
rich.
I really couldn't care. I really couldn't care any less. I would have a much more enjoyable time watching something like that if it was two peasants slinging cow shit at each other. Wow. I hate it. And there's all this new fucking queens going to balls to see who we're gonna have sex
You
with
don't-
tonight.
you don't like
And it's
Little Women?
dude, no.
Oh.
It's boring.
It must be hard being that wrong.
I haven't seen the new Little Women. I would watch that one. That's the one with like Timothy Chalamet.
Sure, but they
and,
don't
like,
change the story.
Yeah, but I'd watch it again. I'd give it another shot. I'm not going to blanket say I will not try it again. But I've had to sit through Pride and Prejudice again, and it's just as bad as I remember, dude. I just cannot. And
Well, put me in your clothes
This
and I'll sit
doesn't-
on the couch and I'll just be like, I'm your Harlan watching this and I will like this.
the clothes will just like drape around you like a parachute. My shoes will fall off. You'll look like a
We'll
cloud.
sell it. It'll be all right.
It'll look like when a toddler wears their dad's clothes.
Yeah, it'll look cute. It'll be cute.
They'll pinch your
I wore my
cheeks.
little cowboy boots when I climbed the fence once and got the biggest splinter of my life in my palm and I fell the fuck off because my shoes were too big. It'll be like that. Nostalgia.
So back to Moulin Rouge.
Oh, yeah.
While it is an original story, it is inspired by 3 operas. As we've talked about a lot, Le Bohème.
La Bohème.
Excuse me.
No, at this point it's a bit.
It's where a young writer in the Bohemian movement falls for a woman with terminal tuberculosis. La Traviata is where a courtesan learns that love can be true and idealistic, and she's dying of tuberculosis, so that's why it's in the movie. And Orpheus in the Underworld, which is the idea of an artist trying to bring his lover from the underworld into the overworld. So instead of like the literal, it's that, it's the scummy criminal underworld. Let's make them respectable artists using my...
Is that like quoted by Baz Luhrmann?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. It just seems that one seems like a reach over the other ones, but okay, I respect it.
Are you an auteur?
I'm not.
So, have any of y'all seen La Bohème or
I've seen Rent.
Well,
I know La Bohème. I want to see more Puccini.
Yeah.
Like he's a brilliant Italian. He's called the maestro. Whatever. But no, I have not actually seen it.
I saw it at Winsphere Opera House. It is so fucking cool what they do because it's obviously it's in Italian or whatever, but they have fucking subtitles at the top of the stage, and I'm like, can we just do that for all live theater shows? Honestly, because sometimes they be too loud.
Yeah.
If I'm being honest, and you can't hear what they're saying. So
I know sometimes I have to wear earplugs to things like that.
Yeah.
It's too loud.
because it's too much art, and
Little pussy.
you're like, why aren't there monster trucks? Why aren't there boobs?
Yeah. No, my eardrums have collapsed when I was a kid. So
Oh, shit.
like when things are too loud, it like
The fuck
just
you do?
statics out. My dad smoked cigarettes all the time, and that causes the membrane in your ears to degrade. And then I got a really bad ear infection, and it caused my eardrums to collapse.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
All right, you can wear your publics.
So we've talked about it a lot, but Lobo M is the inspiration for Rent also, and we're going to cover it more one day. But do you guys see any differences, or how do you feel different about this and Rent of how they adapted the source material?
The people in this are, they're
Endearing.
yeah, they're not all just terrible, and you're like, why am I watching this, 2-hour long movie with good songs? Rent
Yeah.
has very good songs, but I don't like any of them or any of the people.
The
Yeah.
best example I have of this is a small one, but so Christian is doing flashbacks with he's the same character as Mark, where they're both artists living in squalor, but they want to be part of this bigger movement. But Christian, his dad's like, you're a buffoon, you're a fool, loves fake and dumb. Why are you trying to go to the Moulin Rouge? And he's cut off. And then Mark, who is a videographer in Rent, he gets a call from his family on Christmas. And it's like, hey, Mark, we heard you're going through a breakup. Merry Christmas, and we love you, and keep your chin up, buddy. And he's just like, fuck them. This is why I'm happy I'm living in poverty, because I get to avoid that.
So another thing I really...
This is played...
Why do you guys watch shit like
This is played
The
straight.
music is really good.
Dude.
Another thing I like more about this than Rent, and again, it's different intentions, but La Boheme is a tragedy. It ends with I can't
Mimi?
remember. Yeah. It ends with her dying. Whereas Rent, they're like, oh no, love prevailed, and she fucking overcame her, AIDS. Yeah, and they do the power song, or whatever. And it's like,
Dude,
that's some
stupid.
lame shit,
That's stupid
and
as
so
shit.
I don't know. I liken this, sometimes a tragedy is sort of what you need to
It's
put a
stuff you
pin in.
go too far, tragedy porn, and that's kind of where I'm at with the end of this, where it's he had love, he found, he was happy, we got to see that as beautiful, and then it's fucking ripped away and he's a shell. The end. It's dude, come on, give me some tiny bit of optimism so that I don't go home and shoot myself.
No, he
sometimes that's
learns
too much.
about beauty, truth, and love.
I don't know. It's like I don't want to see a movie that makes me feel worse. Sometimes I need a little bit of well, these tragedies can happen, but then this is a reason to go on or something.
I don't know.
Because it's just life is hard, dude. Just living out here is rough, and I don't need to feel worse.
I like it. It's like a little sealed package sandwiched between two gray zones, because it opens up and it's dude, shit sucks. Everything's terrible. I fucking hate being alive. And then this is what it was like to be alive a year ago. And then it's this beautiful sandwich of color and vibrance, and gave his life purpose. And then at the end, she's gone, and that was his color. And then you go on, and the final shot, it's not just black and white grayscale. It starts to add in tan. He's overcoming it by telling his story.
Yeah.
Is how I felt a little bit. But it doesn't want to go on and tell you Christian's next few live.
No, I know, but
the rest of his
if we
life.
left the camera rolling for 3 more minutes, I swear to God, he'd step up in the rafters and hang himself.
Oh.
That's where it was going. And it's let's look at Shawshank Redemption, right?
Oh,
Remember, it's one of the saddest things I've ever seen is in that movie. And it's
Yeah.
when that older prisoner gets released, but he doesn't fit into the world. He doesn't have friends. He
And then
doesn't
he
have
kills
anyone.
himself.
And he kills himself. Let's end the movie right there. The end.
But it's not his tale. If it was about him, then yeah, end the movie right there.
It's about Ewan McGregor,
It's about Christian.
but it's about Moulin Rouge and the vibe and the love
Who
and the
is the-
Bohemians.
The narrator is telling you a story, and
What
he
happens to John
literally says,
Leguizamo? Can he be with the troupe? Can he have a nice life with them?
it's not about him. Sorry, it's not. The narrator is telling, this is the story of how I fell in love, and this is the story of how I dealt with it and felt about it, what happened. And this is the end of my story. It's even written
Because
from
he's just
his
gonna go kill
perspective.
himself. Like that's how I felt when I broke up with my high school girlfriend.
And that's sort of what
and
this
did you
love
kill
is
yourself?
for him.
Dude, no, because like there's still some things to follow.
That's some squirming, dude.
She didn't die in my arms, man.
She coulda.
She had tuberculosis.
She didn't die in my arms. My life fell apart. My career ended. The theater I poured my soul to closes. And I live in a shack.
He was already living in a shack.
He's gonna kill himself.
Nothing. He had nothing to begin with. He has rich family. He could probably go back there. Like, he's fine.
I wouldn't end my movie being like, oh, my girlfriend broke up with me, the end. It's over. It's Jover.
Oh no,
I
you
just
got prostate cancer, dude.
It's like $1 Million Baby. Like, why'd you show me this movie?
Dude, that's a good movie
just to
too.
be fucking sad?
I
What
like
was the
$1 Million
point?
Baby.
What am I walking away
Grave
from
of
with?
the Fireflies. That's another one.
No,
where
that's
it's like,
beautiful.
That's a good one, too.
There's a lot that it's saying. No, I'm so serious. Like, and that's a consistent tone. Moulin Rouge starts with fucking can, and then actually, no, wait, love fucking will rip your heart out and you'll die.
That's like saying, why would you make a horror movie? All it did was scare me.
No.
Like, this movie
Because
is making you sad.
They
It's to
made a
make you
love
this
movie.
roller coaster.
Is this not a love movie?
It is, but it's also a tragedy.
Yeah,
You know? And that's like,
sure.
it can be both.
Yes,
you know?
it can.
What about
But
Eternal
just to-
Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, dude? That is a love movie.
Yeah, and it has a bittersweet ending.
No, it has a bitter ending.
No.
It is sad.
Doesn't
But
he like meet her on the beach?
They go through this cycle where they fall in love and
Yeah.
then they like, I can't do this anymore, and then they reset their mind.
Yeah.
Right? And that happens over and over and over again for both of them.
Mm-hmm.
And in the end, it's not really bittersweet. It's literally just you will consistently be in this cycle of falling in love with this person.
But that's
and
still.
then falling
I
out
still
of
feel
love
like there's
and
something there where it's like you're
losing everything of your
fated
mind.
to still be with this, like to
What about-
carry this. I don't know. There's more going on there than just like my love died and I hate everything.
No matter what, he was fated to not be with
I
Satine,
know.
and being here was not a good idea. The entire thing is a series of mistakes and like misinterpretations that Christian makes throughout the entire story. It is literally told from his perspective.
It's just like, well, damn, dude. Like, fucking rip. Like,
I wouldn't
don't
even
know.
be surprised, personally, if Satine didn't really even love him that much. She was
Yeah.
just kind of like, oh, cute little boy.
Right.
Play with him for a little bit, but I have my job. And that's why nothing really happens. He throws the money down, making himself feel like Big Dick, but then she dies in his arms. And it's not his fault that she doesn't love him. She would have always picked him.
I guess,
It's
like,
his story. And
what's
he's
the
telling it in
climax
history.
of this film? Is it Satine dying?
I would say it's the song of Come What May, when they are getting together after he's walking away, and he's like, Toulouse is like, the greatest thing you'll ever learn is just to love and be loved in return. And then he's walking away, and then Satine starts singing Come What May. And then he takes a few more steps, then he turns around and he starts singing with her, and then the entire band rises up and starts singing.
It's just like the falling action, the resolution is just like, boom, he's sad. End the movie.
This is the end of my story.
Fuck.
She's dead.
Yeah.
Fuck.
I think we should, we're at a stalemate here on this.
Well, like, it's like saying Romeo and Juliet. What's the point? They just die? That's the same thing as you saying. It's the
no, that's
story.
like the conclusion of the story.
It's the conclusion of the story. You're right.
However, you guys can all see this again if there's a stage adaptation, and it is so fucking good. I got to see it live at Fair Park like a year and a half ago, and I'm a real sucker for like stagecraft and like practical effects, and they just make it look like a wonderland. But it came out in 2018, and it won best musical at the Tonys and best orchestration.
Oh, wow.
It's so good. And some changes were made from the film. Like, one, they updated the songs list. It had been 17 years, so there's new love ballads and things that kids can connect with. Christian is American, which doesn't really do much. I think it's just to give him even more fish out of water. He's also the lead actor in the play within a play instead of just the writer, and that's to more naturally put him into scenes and without the weird, when you can't do like backstage shots and like different angles, you don't have to do the switcheroo. It's a little cleaner. Some bigger changes though. The Duke is actually charming. Like he's still a scoundrel and a piece of shit, but he's not like the
sniveling
Like, there's a frog, I'm going to stomp it.
Yeah, he's just like a rich dickhead.
mustache twirling evil guy.
And he actually has a sexual relationship with Satine, and she's aged up to like her early 30s. So it plays more of the question of, yes, it's very syrupy and nice in the movie of she's going to choose true love over financial security. But if you're a woman in her position, that's a much harder question to answer of this penniless person or a guy who's kind of a dick, but you will live comfortably.
Penniless person I've known for a few months.
Also, the absinthe scene is changed. Instead of just like before they go in the Moulin Rouge and it kind of sets the scene for this, wacky point of view. Christian just goes on a bender. It's after Satine breaks up with him. And Ziedler's like, have you ever tried absinthe before? And he just gets fucking demolished. One little thing I like is the line that's like, you must reject the boy, you must shatter him, you must break his heart, is done by the Duke instead of Ziedler. So even if he's like a more realistic villain, it more points him as the villain, and Ziedler doesn't get wrapped up in that. Also, the play within a play, it's not Bollywood inspired like in the movie. And the reason that was like it was because Baz Luhrmann, he saw a live theater show in India and he was like, I don't speak Hindi, but I knew exactly what was happening. I felt connected. But culture changing how it does, you can't have a bunch of white performers doing an Indian show without people getting weird about it.
Yeah, it was a little awkward even in the movie.
I thought they did it really well done because it was pretty like it showed the color and like the design.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it was offensive. This is just the path of least resistance.
I mean, that's fair. What they do instead?
They did a Bohemian Rhapsody style show.
Okay.
Where it's just like, it's a play. Without the theming.
So I guess any sort of other final thoughts before we wrap things up?
Ben's wrong. It's beautiful.
Outloaded.
Fair enough.
So with that, that is going to do it for today's episode of the Boyos Discuss. If you enjoyed the podcast and you're listening on YouTube, we'd really appreciate it if you'd like the video and subscribe to the channel. We'll be back next week to talk about Mamma Mia. Anyways, guys, until next time.